Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. My name's Noelle and I review and unbox subscription boxes here on my channel. And today I am very excited to share with you another literary book club box that's been sent to me for review. This is a gorgeous quarterly book subscription box, and it comes in this huge box fashioned to look like a classic because indeed she features the classics in this subscription. So some of them might be your absolute favorites and favorite authors. Some of them might be titles that you just never really got around to, or maybe even titles you've never even heard of. That's happened for me for a couple of the titles. And maybe there are ones that were in some of your college courses and you just never got around to reading anything more than the summary. This is your opportunity to build your library because she gets gorgeous, gorgeous editions, and she also just makes the reading experience super fun because there are lovely gifts that go along with, not just gifts that go along with certain page numbers, but there's usually a gift to eat or drink, usually a snack for the while you read gift. There is a lovely 8x10 hand-done quote that Katie herself does because she is a great artist, and there's usually a gift for the very end when the last page has been read. The quarterly box is $74.99 plus $11.95 in shipping, and I do have an affiliate link as well as a code for you to save $5. The code is mauinoel. I'll leave the affiliate link for you in the description box below and in the first pinned comment. Just a heads up though, these often sell out. If there's any extras, you can get on the wait list, but I highly suggest just being on the wait list because when she opens it up to subscribers, it is like those boxes are gone in a heartbeat. So remember, you can only use my code for the $5 off on the subscription, but you can use the affiliate link for the subscription, but also any gift boxes that she still has in stock, as well as the limited edition boxes. And she usually does one limited edition box per season, and then she often does them for holidays as well. So there's a Halloween box, which is really exciting. I know a lot of you have pre-ordered that. She's doing a Christmas box with a lovely edition of the Nutcracker, and the December box, which once we're done with this one, once we're done with the September box and all of the extras have been allocated to those of you who want to get your hot little hands on them, then we'll be moving on to the December box, and she has already announced that the December box is going to be Mansfield Park. So if you are a Jane Austen fan, you want to be on the wait list if you are not already a subscriber. So some of those limited editions, I will let you know, are a little bit pricier on occasion than the regular quarterly box, but it's because they're very deluxe and sometimes the gifts in them are like super fancy. Although I was really excited about the gifts in this box. So let's go ahead and get into it. The title for September was The Tenant of Wildfell Hall, which honestly I think I had heard of, but I had definitely never read it. It is by Anne Bronte, one of the Bronte sisters. Look at this gorgeous Chiltern edition that we got. So I don't know if you guys will be able to see, but it does actually have texture. So these flowers are raised and glossy. I just think Chiltern editions are beautiful. I know there were a couple subscribers in the private Facebook group that were like, can we get other things besides Chiltern editions? And she definitely does do other things besides them. But I have just been loving how these all look lined up on my shelf. I have a special shelf just for them because they look so great together. As you can see, this was a pretty hefty novel with these nice gilt edges, beautiful thick glossy pages in Chiltern editions, nice ribbon bookmark. I think they're awesome personally. And I love the size of them as well. It just feels like right for a classic. So I think they're great. This novel though was 528 pages. So it's a hefty little tome. I was a little bit nervous about it, but I will say that the way that it was crafted, I really enjoyed. It was kind of a story within a story. It's a love story. It's a feminist story. It's a very strong, independent woman when there were not necessarily a lot of those that were voicing that independence. There's a love story element. So part of it is in the voice of Gilbert. I think he's writing to his brother-in-law. That sounds about right. And then a good chunk of it, the central part of it, is actually in the voice of Helen, who is our main character, our protagonist, our amazing woman who is just trying to do her best for her son. And she's very it's very sweet. But let me go ahead and just read the little synopsis on the back for you, and then we'll talk about the actual contents of the box. When Helen Graham takes the tenancy of Wildfell Hall, she incites passion and rumor among the local community because, of course, they have to wonder who this widow, we think she's a widow at first, with her son is in this tiny community. Helen's secrets are slowly revealed, the flight from a brutish, dissolute husband and determination that her son should not follow his example. Regarded as a milestone of feminist literature, The Tenant of Wildfell Hall challenged Victorian standards when it was published in 1848. So I was pretty impressed. It's funny, like at certain points in when she's telling about her brutish husband, who has the same name as her son, Arthur, you know, you can see this toxic relationship. You know, they're very young and he's very charming. He's definitely a womanizer, but she forgives him because she loves him so much, so many times, like way too many times. But he's the worst, honestly. Arthur is terrible. She gets embarrassed about her journal and how like lovingly she writes about him, and especially when he finds it and reads the journal. He's a bummer character. There were a lot of characters in this book, but I will say maybe it's just because of the length of the novel. I felt like I was able to kind of juggle them in my brain, unlike some of the more recent contemporary books that I've been reading lately where I feel like there's an overload of characters. But anyway, let's go ahead and get into what you get in the boxes. So in the boxes, because it's supposed to be kind of a surprise, all of the gifts are labeled. So for example, there's a while you read gift. Some of them have page numbers like this one. So what I do is when I first get the box, I go through and I put little bookmarks or little sticky notes on all of the page numbered ones so that I know, because I don't always have the box with me, when I get to go and open up a gift. But at the very bottom of the box, face down, Katie has always put a little cheat sheet that does tell you all of the contents of the box. So I have this out for my reference, but you can keep it a surprise until the end when you get your boxes. Things that are always included in Literary Book Club box, which are always fun, are of course a beautiful 8x10 handwritten print. So Katie is an artist, and this time around the quote is, "If she were more perfect, she would be less interesting," which is just kind of fun. Like, I love this idea of your uniqueness, right? It's not a flaw, it's what makes you special. So, and of course we have these lovely fall leaves along the borders and her beautiful script, and I still have it in the plastic sleeve because I'm trying to keep it nice and pristine, but that is something that is in all Literary Book Club boxes. And then of course we also have our nice note with a wax seal from her. Now, once upon a time the boxes actually were printed on the interior and they had this great Jane Austen quote, but now she's moved it to the envelope. It says, "I shall be miserable if I have not an excellent library." Not of course Jane Austen, but doesn't it just feel like a fancy box because we're getting this wax sealed letter. Inside we have a little card that will tell us the title of the book. Again, Tenant of Wildfell Hall. So if you like to have, you know, like put this in a card holder while you're reading it, it's just sort of like the marquee for your reading experience. You might have it if you have a special reading nook. And then on the back, she just gave us the same synopsis, a little letter from Katie. Another thing that we always get in a Literary Book Club box is a swag bag, which is super fun, of course. So we have a swag bag of Literary Book Club stuff. So let's see what we got this time around. I don't think I actually even took a peek at this. So probably some fun items in here. All right, so we got a nice kind of chunky, wide bookmark. This has a different quote. "There's nothing like active employment, I suppose, to console the afflicted." Well, that is very true. It's kind of a like dim look on life, but I suppose that's true. When we are a little bit consumed by something else, we can throw ourselves into our work or into our duties and find a little bit of lightness, a little bit of ease, or at least just a temporary relief. So that is certainly true. I think that was probably the case with a lot of women back in the day during the time period of the book. We also got this nice little book plate because, of course, you are building your library. And then we got this sticker that has that same quote that was on the larger print. "If she were more perfect, she would be less interesting." So there's that. All right, so we also got a little bonus in this particular box because I believe this is the 3rd anniversary. I cannot believe it is the 3rd anniversary of the Literary Book Club box, but I can't believe it was just my 4th anniversary of having this channel, but it's really cute that she included that. So that kind of goes along with our While You Read gift. Usually the while you read gift is a drink or a snack of some sort, so I try to open these kind of carefully so I can share the experience with all of you. So we had, of course, the art print, the swag bag, the while you read gift, the when the last page has been read gift, and then we had 3 gifts that were associated with pages in this particular box. So there's always like a lot of extras. So we got a Tea Pigs Happy with Lemon Balm Feel Good Tea. So a little tea sachet, which is nice. And can go very nicely with my little cookie. Always good to have a treat when you're reading, although then I like to wash my hands if it's something edible. Teacups are fine, but you know, gotta keep those glossy pages nice and clean. All right, so 500 and something pages, but there were 3 gifts. They were on page 50, 61, and 271. So they were not necessarily evenly dispersed, but that's okay. So I will try to go ahead and read the passages for you. They're not really spoiler passages. And if I have time at the very end, I'll read some passages that just sort of stuck out to me, and they're of course, about how terrible Arthur is and how he reveals himself very soon after they're married to be a not nice guy. So this is still at the beginning of the novel, so it is in the voice of Gilbert, who is eventually the love interest of Helen once she is rid of her terrible husband, who does take up a bulk of the story. So it says, the studio. It was about the close of the month that, yielding at length to the urgent importunities of Rose, his sister, I accompanied her in a visit to Wildfell Hall. To our surprise, we were ushered into a room where the first object that met the eye was a painter's easel, with a table beside it covered with rolls of canvas, bottles of oil and varnish, palette, brushes, paints, etc. Leaning against the wall were several sketches in various stages of progression, and a few finished paintings, mostly of landscapes and figures. I must make you welcome to my studio, said Mrs. Graham. There is no fire in the sitting room today, and it is rather too cold to show you into a place with an empty grate. So imagine in a proper English accent, of course. So we have our first gift, which was page 50, and this is what it looks like. I had already kind of opened it up, so she put a nice little sticker on it. She does try to take a lot of care in terms of packaging everything, so it all really looks together beautiful. It's aesthetically pleasing. So we got this nice watercolor set, which I thought was really cool. It might take me a second to open this up, but it's a really, I assume, high quality. It seems like a really good value, honestly, but since Katie is an artist, I feel like she got us a good watercolor set. You guys, let's actually have a secret password while we're at it. So when you come across a secret password in one of my videos, they're not in all the videos, but in a good deal of them, you want to enter it along with your contact information in the Google form linked for you in the description box below. And then 5 days into the following month, I use a random number picker to select a few winners to receive mystery boxes as my way of saying thank you for watching my videos. You have to be 18 years or older, you have to have a US or Canadian mailing address, and you do have to be a subscriber of my channel. Just as a reminder, it's not affiliated with YouTube or any of the boxes I open here, just a way of saying thank you. But today's secret password will be watercolor. So you can see it's this nice tin. It's got this little ring, so you can actually use it as a palette. It's by a company called Doodlebug. So let me see if I can open this up. So you can see here, this is where you have your little pans so you can mix your colors. It actually came with the sort of color wheel, the different colors that are included, as well as a piece of watercolor paper so you can make your own swatches. And then it has this little part, which is sometimes a little bit tricky to open up. All right, so here they are. And this is really nice. I think this is really nice. Look at the beautiful colors. So those are individual little pans of paint. So you can take those out and replace them or move them around if you want them to just be grouped differently. And then we got this nice watercolor pen so that you don't have to have cups of water with you. But of course you have all of this room to create your colors. But I thought these were really beautiful colors and a really nice gift to receive, and of course to encourage some creativity. So it definitely went well because Helen actually makes a living for herself and her son as a painter. She has her paintings sent away and sold, so she's a businesswoman too, as well as an artist. Now our next gift came just a few pages later on page 61. So it is still in the voice of Gilbert. And who has a lovely family. I mentioned his sister Rose. I actually think his brother is hilarious. I wish he was in it more. And of course he has this very sweet mother. So let's see. I was too late for tea, but my mother had kindly kept the teapot and muffin warm upon the hobs, and though she scolded me a little, readily admitted my excuses, and when I complained of the flavor of the overdrawn tea, she poured the remainder into the slop basin and bade Rose put some fresh into the pot and reboil the kettle, which offices were performed with great commotion and certain remarkable comments, because Rose was like, oh yeah, of course you'll do that for your son, but what attention do I get? So for page 61, we got this. And it's another treat because you're probably not going to read all of the Tenant of Wildfell haul in one sitting. So we got one of these fun muffins in a cup. So it's a caramel apple cinnamon vanilla cake. So it's really easy. I think you just make them in the microwave. I've gotten these a couple times before, but what a nice fall treat to enjoy. And then finally on page 271, let's see, 271, I think I marked it. Or I marked it with a bookmark. Yeah, 271. Let me see if I can remember what this is. Let's see. Okay, so this is actually in the voice of Helen. That time that I met him alone was on a bright but not oppressively hot day. In the beginning of July, I had taken little Arthur, her son, into the wood that skirts the park, and there seated him on the moss-cushioned roots of an old oak, and having gathered a handful of bluebells and wild roses, I was kneeling before him and presenting them one by one to the grasp of his tiny fingers, enjoying the heavenly beauty of the flowers through the median of his smiling eyes, forgetting for the moment all my cares, laughing at his gleeful laughter, and delighting myself with his delight, when a shadow suddenly eclipsed the little space of sunshine on the grass before us, and looking up, I beheld Walter Hargrave standing and gazing upon us. So that's not even her husband. This is this other annoying guy that's in the book, but it is inspired this gift that came in this nice little bag, which is, let's see, oh, these are fun. I love this brand. This is from Cleanse Gourmet. So we got some pepper, berry, and rose shower steamers. They got a little bit crumbly in there, and they seem to have some strings from the bag on there, but they're really beautiful, and they'll work really well in the shower, even when they're just scattered like powder. So some nice shower steamers. You guys know how much I love my shower steamers. I don't get as many these days, so I was really happy about that. And then finally, we have something to open when the last page has been read, which is what the sticker says. And we even got this pretty quote here. It says, "I would rather have your friendship than the love of any other woman in the world." All right, so we have inside, this was really cool. So these are watercolor cards with illustrations by Christy Rice. So we actually got deluxe cards to paint and frame or mail. So there are 12 cards. They came in this really nice box. And what I thought was cool is they're not just watercolor paper cards, but they're actually, they have images. So you can be as artistic and fine and detailed as you want in terms of filling in the lines, or you can just do really fun splotches of color and have that sort of be your style. So of course they came with envelopes, but they're all different. So there's this one with like berries, and then on the back they actually have a border, so you can actually write or create a frame out of it. So they're all two-sided like that, and there are 12 different ones. So I love that it gave us a little bit of help in terms of our creativity. Really nice quality watercolor paper. They're all florals, but you could be, like I said, you could be very exact and fill in the lines, or you could just do splotches of color and make it a little bit more contemporary in style. So I thought that was a lovely way to cap off and complement the nice watercolor set that we got in the box. So you guys, I thought this was a lovely box. It was a book that I had a little bit of anxiety about reading just because it was so long, but you know, I love when it is a box where some of the gifts are inspired by the pages. I like to go ahead and read it whenever I can. I think that it adds to the authenticity of my review of the box and the curation, but also just like the experience for myself. So let me go ahead and find a page that I can read to you a little bit about that fun husband of hers. Let's see if I can find one on page maybe 2. I think I marked a page. He's just no fun. So chapter 23, First Weeks of Matrimony, February 18th, 1822. Early this morning, Arthur mounted his hunter and set off in high glee to meet the hounds. He will be away all day, so I will amuse myself with my neglected diary, if I can give that name to such an irregular composition. It is exactly 4 months since I opened it last. I am married now and settled down as Mrs. Huntingdon of Grassdale Manor. I have had 8 weeks' experience of matrimony, and do I regret the step I have taken? No, though I must confess in my secret heart that Arthur is not what I thought him at first, and if I had known him in the beginning as thoroughly as I do now, I probably never should have loved him, and if I loved him first and then made the discovery, I fear I should have thought it my duty not to have married him. To be sure, I might have known him, for everyone was willing enough to tell me about him, and he found himself was no accomplished hypocrite, but I was willfully blind, and now instead of regretting that I did not discern his full character before I was indissolubly bound to him, I am glad, for it has saved me a great deal of battling with my conscience, and a great deal of consequent trouble and pain, and whatever I ought to have done, my duty now is plainly to love him, and to cleave to him, and this just tallies with my inclination. So again, this is, you know, that's not the kind of thoughts that we want to encourage these days, that it's probably a good thing that she didn't find out what a brute he was ahead of time, because then she would have had to trouble herself with making the decision. But she definitely takes on a lot of guilt and responsibility for things that are not her responsibility. So you kind of feel for Helen, and you're very proud of her when she does finally free herself from his not fun ways. So it says, later on she says, "If ever I am a mother, I will zealously strive against this crime of overindulgence. I can hardly give it a milder name when I think of the evils it brings." So that is her reason for eventually leaving her husband temporarily and moving to Wildfell Hall, where she eventually does meet Gilbert. And like I said, there is a happy ending, so don't fret, but we have to go through a lot of trials and tribulations to get there. Loved the book, loved the box. I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a thumbs up, and I'll see you all very, very soon in my next unboxing. Make sure you get on the wait list for the next one.